Will Nebraska win 9 or more football games this year, ladies and gentlemen? I'm back. Took a nice little break, but I'm back. You got national college football analysts like Josh Pate predicting Nebraska to be in the college football playoff, finishing 11th in the country. That was his prediction. Actually taking on Notre Dame as the 6th seed in the college football playoff. At least that was his prediction. Another national college football analyst, Brandon Walker. Again, Nebraska in the college football playoff, he has them as the 10th seed. Now, he based it largely off a schedule. He said in one of his follow-up tweets, hey, Indiana and SMU last year, probably not two of the best 12 teams in the country, but when you factored in schedule, they got in the college football playoff. He likens Nebraska and Missouri, who he also has in the college football playoff, to be in a similar boat. Now, when I was going to do this show, I was going to debate between 8, 9 wins. How many games was Nebraska going to win? Was it going to be 8 games? Was it going to be 9 games? You look at the preseason polls, Nebraska's 34th in the AP poll, 39th in the coaches poll, so that's quite a disparity between being a college football playoff team and not even being preseason ranked, ladies and gentlemen. That's why this stuff, this sport, and this show is so much fun. All right, if you're with me, and you're hyped and pumped that the Nebraska football season and the college football season is almost here, then smash that like button. Let's light this candle. Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the polls of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, carrikerchronicles.com. The website is rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, now real quick, the next 4 shows, in no particular order, are going to go as is. Will Nebraska win 9 or more games? That's today's show, the show you're paying attention to right here, right now. Also, again, in no particular order, a deeper dive and look into Dana Holgorsen and Dylan Raiola's offense. What's it going to look like? What are they capable of? Also, a one-on-one interview with yours truly and Nebraska head football coach Matt Rhule. And then, 48 hours before we play Cincinnati, I will do a preview and prediction of Nebraska's first game of the year in Arrowhead, ESPN, Thursday Night Football versus Cincinnati. All right, the topic at hand of this show today. You look it up right now, Nebraska's given a 10.3% chance of making the college football playoff and a 0.1% chance of winning the national championship. You know what I heard? You're telling me there's a chance. Have you missed me? Because I've missed doing this. All right, now, full perspective, I initially wrote down, again, here's my notes, they're back, all 18,000 of them, okay. I initially wrote down Nebraska's not won 8 games since 2016. Upon further review, we hadn't won 7 games in 9 years until last year. So, full scope, full perspective of everything. I'm going to take the approach, I always root for Husker football. I bleed Husker red. It was my dream to play there growing up. I chose to come back for my senior year when I could have left to go to the NFL because this was my dream, right? Move the family back to Lincoln, and our only regret is that we didn't do it sooner. I will root for Nebraska till the day I die, but you got to look at the full scope of things. You know that if you follow me here on the Carriker Chronicles. Now, we hadn't won 7 or 8 games in quite a long time. All right, we've done 7. Let's get to 8, possibly 9 or more. Anything is possible, as we know. Anything from 12-0 to 0-12. I do think our final record realistically lies somewhere between 6-6 and 11-1, and I'm going to narrow it down just a little bit more here in a minute. Now, my barometer for success, if you just want to look at wins and losses, and we can look at other things in future upcoming shows beyond just wins and losses, is 8 wins, the bare minimum for me this year, because that means we're taking a step in the right direction. I don't want to stay status quo at 7 wins. I certainly don't want to go backwards. Are we at least going in the right direction? 8 wins. This is a place where we used to, well, we fired 2 9-win coaches, but it's back to the point where if we get to 8 wins, I'm not going to jump for joy, but I will consider that a successful season for this year. That's the bottom of the barrel of bare minimum of what I consider to be a successful season, though. The sky could be a little bit higher than that. You look at Indiana, SMU from a year ago. Indiana won 11-1. I actually looked this up because I'm like, man, they have to have a lot of losses throughout their college football history. They're nothing but love for the most part, except when he's talking trash about us on national television for Curt Cignetti in Indiana. But did you know they have the most amount of losses of any college football FBS program in the entire country in history? 719 program losses, 518 wins. That's not meant to be a dig. It's meant to show that in the era of the NIL and transfer portal, things can turn around so fast and you literally never know what can happen. Go to SMU, who doesn't get talked about enough, by the way, because they weren't even a Power 4 team until last year. And the year before last year, they got waxed, I had to look this up, by Boston College in the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. And then a year ago, they're playing in the college football playoff. Now, am I going to predict Nebraska to be in the college football playoff? You got to stay tuned. Let's talk about 8, 9, or more potential wins. All right. On the same token, all this positivity, I'm looking at, and this is what I was going into a minute ago, and then I got sidetracked about how much I love Nebraska football, of its positivity without hype. And I know I put out hype videos all summer, okay, if you follow me on social media and YouTube. I can't help it. But it's positivity without hype. Positivity is looking forward to being excited and rooting for your team from a positive angle. Hype can sometimes, it's not a bad thing, but it can sometimes be unfounded expectations, all right? Those have to be earned, in my opinion. I hope we earn them. Now, I'm always going to be more in the wait and see camp. Obviously, you do prediction shows, and you do shows where you project and look ahead because it's fun. But we don't have really anything else to talk about just yet. We can talk about more and analyze more when we have games. Right now, it's fun to do, but nobody really knows what's going to happen. So let's have some fun and let's light this candle. So on a couple of hands here, on one hand, you have the Matt Rhule Year 3 jump. Matt Rhule's talked about it since December. He did it at Temple, did it at Baylor, etc., etc. You got the Matt Rhule Year 3 jump. Hopefully it all happens. A jump for me is not going from 7 wins this season to 8, it's to 9. That's the minimum of a jump for me. Now, I don't think we have to have a jump to have a successful season, but you've got us not even close to being ranked 34th and 39th in some of these polls. To me, that's a gap. So you got some guys predicting us to be in the CFP. What's realistic, in my humble opinion? On the other hand, Nebraska, all right, no Big Ten school has a younger roster than Nebraska. 125 players on the team, 91 of them are underclassmen, freshmen and or sophomores. That's almost 73%. Now, depending on who starts game 1, all right, and those starters haven't been released just yet, but the projected starters on offense, 8 of the 11 projected starters on offense are junior and seniors. They're upperclassmen. 7 or 8 of the projected starters, depending on who actually starts on defense come game 1, we'll see, are also juniors and seniors. So as an overall whole, depending on who the actual starters are, that's anywhere from 68 to 73% of our actual starters are upperclassmen. Now, to be clear, you don't have to be an upperclassman to be a good football player. You just tend to have a little bit more experience, and it'll be a little bit more proven. But you can't be proven until you get the experience. You can't get the experience until you do something for the first time. You can't do something for a second time until you've done it for the first time. Now, real quick, Matt Rhule talked about the starters, the backups, and how they've looked in our preseason scrimmages. Now that fall camp is over, I'm going to get to that in a second. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to DPS Concrete Construction. Again, check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Shout out to Jason Armstrong. This dude, he's a good dude. He knows what he's doing. He operates a great company. If this is the line of work that you do, go to dpsconstruction.net. This is a guy you want to work for. If this is the type of work you need done, these are the type of people you want to do it. Go to dpsconstruction.net. Concrete work, retainer wall work, and the like. They are your experts in the Nebraska and Iowa area, especially if you're in Omaha, in that type of area. Also, Husker Auto Group. We've literally bought 3 vehicles from them in the past year, by the way. Shout out Steve and everyone who's there. All 2025 Chevy Silverados and GMC Sierras, half-ton, three-quarter-ton, and one-ton trucks in stock are up to $11,500 discount off MSRP. Over 100 trucks available and ready for immediate delivery. See Husker Auto Group for details. Husker BMW of Lincoln has 2025 model BMW X7s, all-wheel drive marquee SUVs available for immediate delivery up to $8,000 off MSRP. Husker Auto Group is committed to delivering an excellent customer experience, conveniently located on North 27th and I-80. All right, Matt Rhule talked about the starters looking good. They look good in the scrimmages. All right, need some of the other guys to step up. Obviously, guys are starters for a reason. Second stringers and third stringers, they're there for a reason, and the like on down. But you want to make sure you not only have competition, but depth. As the season rolls along, guys are going to get banged up. Guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to miss a game here or there. Some guys might miss a month. The injury rate in football, if you play long enough, is 100%, just so you know, if you play long enough, all right? So we need to have depth. So that's something to keep an eye on. Now, to be clear, we have newer and returning guys who are both going to make contributions for Nebraska football this fall, and they'll make an impact for us. And shout out freshman punter Archie Wilson. He captured the hearts of Husker fans, dude. I know what it's like. I was halfway across the country, okay, from where I grew up, born in Hastings, but grew up in the state of Washington. When I came here as a freshman, it was tough. I can only imagine coming from Australia. But this dude, I know you've heard positive things. When Mike Eckler talked to me about him last spring, his eyes lit up. Now, he's a freshman, so remember that. But the talent and excitement, he's going to make an impact for us, and other guys like him will. And now, as far as the place-kicking job, I'm genuinely curious to see who wins the place-kicking job. But you got to feel good as an overall whole about our starters. We got to see how the depth develops, who improves, and who improves at a quicker and faster rate throughout the season from those guys who are not the starters just yet. And I know they're going to rotate a lot of guys on defense as well. All right, how big a role does that play as the season goes along? Now, I will say this. Toughness is going to be huge. Toughness. Play in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, being able to run the ball, being able to stop the run. It's a tale as old as time. And some of the toughest guys on this team, because they were given single digits, shout out Javin Wright, Zaire Wright, Ja'Cory Barney, Marquise Buford, Janiran Bonner, Riley Van Poppel, Dane Key, Malcolm Hartzog, Deshaun Singleton, and Vincent Shavers. Now, here's what I noticed. There's 7 defensive guys out of those 10 players, and the 3 guys on offense are all wide receivers. I kind of like that. That was something that absolutely stuck out to me. And when you talk about Janiran Bonner as well, because who's going to step up beyond the initial 3 starting wide receivers as we anticipate between Dane Key, Isaiah Hunter, and Ja'Cory Barney? Janiran Bonner seems to be a guy who has caught the coach's attention for multiple reasons. They've called him, and I quote, Swiss Army knife. They've called him, and I quote, a unit, all right? The ability to do anything. And he was voted the number 4 single-digit jersey number by his teammates for his toughness and leadership, and he's got a physical presence, is what has been pointed out by his own peers, teammates, and coaches. Here's some of the other things I want to point out real quick. And this is positivity. This is positivity without hype. But you look at the preseason top wide receivers in the country. Dane Key, according to the graphic you have in front of you right now, is 11th in the country. A guy who could have gone to the NFL and been a second, third round pick. All right, you look at the top wide receiver duos in the country. Dane Key and Ja'Cory Barney. And Isaiah Hunter, keep your eye on him as well for obvious reasons. You look at the Paul Hornig Award, all right, which is the most versatile player in college football award. Again, Ja'Cory Barney is on there as well, a guy who's going to be returning punt for Nebraska this year as well. So it's going to be exciting to see our punt return game, our return game as a whole, our punting game. Is the punting game supposed to be exciting? It's allowed to be exciting, I think. Well, how about the return game as well? Okay, you look at some of these preseason projections and we'll see what actually happens. Again, I got to see it on the field. But this is what's out there right now. The 5 offenses that are predicted to be the 5 most improved offenses in the entire Big Ten Conference are Michigan, UCLA, Nebraska, Illinois, and Michigan State. You look at some of the Big Ten returning passing leaders as well. Again, it's on your screen. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on podcasts, it's Drew Aller, Billy Edwards, Wisconsin quarterback, and Dylan Raiola, the 3rd leading passer in the Big Ten Conference coming back this year, passing for nearly 3,000 yards a year ago. Then 4th is Luke Altmaier of Illinois, and 8th, Callie McManus of Rutgers. When you look at all-time true freshman Big Ten passing seasons, you've got guys like Christian Hackenberg, you've got guys like Dylan Raiola, Chad Henne, Adrian Martinez. 2 of the 4 are recent Nebraska quarterbacks, but Dylan's up there. He's got to take care of the ball a little bit better. 13 passing touchdowns to 11 INTs. Got to take care of the ball better. Hopefully our yards per pass attempt goes up. Hopefully he gets more help in pass protection, which I believe he will. The offensive line, according to offensive line coach Donovan Raiola, is the best offensive line he's had since he's got here. This is now his 4th season here. He's the most tenured Husker football coach on this staff. So more time to throw, better ability to run the ball, which will help set up the passing game as well. And then I believe the receiving corps has been upgraded this year, and there will be more separation down the field. The ability to throw the ball down the field will be improved. And Dana Holgorsen himself has said, and I quote, when talking about Dylan Raiola, and I quote, he's making throws that I've never seen before, end quote. That's quite a statement coming from a guy who has coached Heisman Trophy finalists, 1st-round picks, record-setting quarterbacks. So that's quite the statement right there. Don't forget about the other side of the ball, defense. Marquez Watson-Trent. All right. I saw a graphic about a month ago where he was, as far as returning linebacker grades of all the linebackers in the country, grade-wise, he was number 2. Going into next season, according to some of the preseason projections that are out there, he is projected to be one of the best linebackers in the Big Ten, as you see per that graphic on the screen. Now, I personally believe our realistic win total this upcoming season is somewhere between 8 and 10 games. That's where I believe we're going to be. Somewhere between 8, 9, 10 games. So, does Nebraska win 9+ games or not this season? It's time to get down to brass tacks, ladies and gentlemen. The over-under win total, according to ESPN, has not moved all offseason. It's been at 7.5. And if you look at the games that we're favored, the games we're favored to win. We're favored in 8 of our games. Now, I looked at this graphic a month ago, and I've not looked at it since. Honestly, I didn't want to be jaded. I wanted to come to my own conclusion. So I have not looked at what games we're currently favored in since about May. So maybe 2-3 months ago, however long that is, because I want to come to my own conclusions when I'm officially predicting which games we're going to win and lose in this show right here, right now. But we're favored to win 8 out of the 12 games as of a few months ago. The 4 games we were not favored to win are Michigan, Minnesota, USC, and Penn State. Now, Nebraska only has 4 true road games this year. 4 true road games. And I'm basically going to say we're going to have 8 home games. Because Kansas City, by the way, thank you, Cincinnati, for giving up a home game for a neutral site game. If you look at the tickets being sold, for every Cincinnati ticket or area code that's being sold, there are 10 Nebraska fans or Nebraska area codes that are being sold. It's 10 to 1. It's going to be a home game for Nebraska. So essentially, we have 8 home games this year and only 4 true road games. And we don't have our first road game until the middle of October. Think about that. A month and a half into the season. And a lot of our perceived tougher games are going to be at home. You think about games like Michigan at home, USC at home, Iowa at home. Cincinnati is a game we need to win, and that first game of the year is always so wildly unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. Basically, having that as a pseudo home game, I think, is going to be big for Nebraska as well, because we need to win that game. We just do. We just do. We just do, in my humble opinion. All right, probably our toughest opponent of the year. All right, and most people would say it's Penn State. That is at Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley. That is a road game. So you start to break down the schedule a little bit more. We're going to be favored in the first 3 games of the year. We're a 6.5-point favorite versus Cincinnati. And you're going to hear me say this again in the preview and prediction episode. That's a game we should win by double digits. But it's a game that you don't know what to make of it. They have so much new on the Cincinnati team. We have so much new. So how does everything gel? How does everything look the first game of the season? Even if you've got a bunch of people coming back, coaching and player-wise, you still don't know what to expect the first game of the season. The biggest jumps every year for most teams are made from game 1 to game 2. So game 1's a bit of a wild card. So while we should win that game by double digits, I just want to win. I don't care really how it looks. Okay? Because if we do that, we should be 3-0 heading into Michigan on our home field. You look at some of these games. Michigan, going to be a tough game, but again, we get them at home. You look at Maryland, Minnesota, and some of these road games. There's going to be, Northwestern always plays us tough. Always. Why is that, by the way? So there's going to be a lot of close games. And then you get to November. You get to USC, UCLA, Penn State, Iowa. Those are going to be some close dogfights, even going out to Pasadena. Anytime you're traveling 2 time zones, teams in the Big Ten had really bad records last year traveling 2 time zones. Luckily, Nebraska's not the only one that has to do it. There's going to be a lot of close games. So you start to look at this. I'm not going to deep dive into Cincinnati now. I'm going to do that early next week as we get closer to the actual game. But I'll tell you right now, I got us beating Cincinnati. I'm not going to tell you whether it's close or whether I think it's a blowout. I'm going to do the deep dive later, and I got us going 3-0. I just want you to know that. Heading into Michigan, it's a 3:30 game. Now, you get to mid-late September, it starts to cool off. I hope it's 95 degrees. I hope it's 90 degrees that day. It is much hotter, much more humid here in Nebraska as a whole than it is in Michigan. The hotter it is because it's at 3:30. The hottest time of the day is 3 to 5 p.m. I want it to be blazing because the hotter it is, the more it's going to help us. I expect a Colorado-type atmosphere. I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma so they're undefeated and highly ranked, and I want us to be 3-0, and I want it to be a Colorado-type atmosphere. Now, I felt like Colorado was overwhelmed, and they just had no shot last year. Before I dive into that Michigan game and give you my prediction there, I do want to give a shout out to another sponsor. And frankly, I've gotten to know these people in this business. They do a phenomenal job. Nobody's better. 626 Auto Service in Lincoln. Check them out at 626autoservice.com, 2405 P Street in Lincoln, Nebraska. Locally owned for 2 decades, 20 years, ladies and gentlemen. Ask for Dean Phelps. He's the owner if you go in. When you go in, or Eric or Jeff, and tell them that Adam sent you. They do great work at a very reasonable price. We now have kids that are driving, so it's not just myself and Angie. We got kids that are driving, all right, and they take care of all of our vehicular needs. Everything from oil changes to engine replacements. They offer also, if necessary, shuttle rides, loaner vehicles, and financing as well. Again, they do a great job. This is where we take our vehicles, my family. 626 Auto Service in Lincoln. Check them out at 626autoservice.com. The Michigan prediction. Michigan as a whole is not going to be overwhelmed. They've played in gigantic games the past 2 years. But they don't have their head coach, and they got a true freshman quarterback coming in here. And I think it's going to be a bananas Colorado-type atmosphere. Travis Hunter said that's by far the craziest atmosphere he has ever played in, was when Colorado was here last year. People need to fear playing in Memorial Stadium once again, especially with all the home games that we have this year. I think there's 2 people who may get a little overwhelmed, starting with the true freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood. If he is indeed their starter, he's projected to be, and whoever is their head coach that day. Now, he's a grown man, he's getting paid the big bucks, but it's a little different when you're the head guy and everything falls on your shoulders. And I want to make Michigan regret choosing to have Sharon Moore suspended for our game. And I know why they wanted him there for Oklahoma. I don't think they meant it to be disrespectful, but I want them to regret it. I got Nebraska winning, and I got Nebraska 4-0. And you can say I'm chugging the Kool-Aid. Stick with me here. The next 4 games, Michigan State, Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern. We're going to be favored in all 4 games. Just because we're favored, that ball bounces funny ways. You never know what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of close games. You look at Maryland itself, that's going to be our first road game. We're going halfway across the country the other way from UCLA, which is later on in the season. Changing 2 time zones. Is that an early morning game? I could see that being an early morning game because Maryland's not going to be great. Ohio State went in there last year, and they won by 13, but it was within a touchdown until about 5 minutes to go in the game. That could be a game. If you remember Purdue a year ago, our first road game, it was 11 a.m. start. I don't know. I'm not saying we're going to lose. I'm just saying it's not a gimme. Then we're going to turn right around and go to Minnesota on a short week. All right, you got to keep in mind, Minnesota is a school that's beaten us 5 straight times and 6 out of the last 7. Not going to be a gimme. Those are 2 games where we should win, depending on who's healthy and whatnot, and we're going to be favored. But we'll see what happens. You got Northwestern, who I mentioned always plays us tough. Out of those next 4 games, and Michigan State, I mean, they have got a very good coach, Jonathan Smith, in year 2. They got a quarterback who is insanely talented with more experience now, Aiden Childs. They're going to be better. I don't think they're going to be barn burners. But of those 4 games, I got us going 3-1. Okay, and I hope I'm wrong. But at some point, the ball just ain't going to bounce our direction. But I hope I'm right, because that means going into November, we're 7-1. And I don't know about you, but I would sure as heck take that. Now, USC, the blackout game, the alternate uniform game. Hopefully it's a night game. Matt Rhule said they project it to be a night game. If we're 7-1, now, this is a USC team that was 1-5 in 1-score games last year. We were 2-4. One of these 2 teams is going to have to win a close game and figure it out. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere once again, just like Michigan. And I would just say, whether you get excited about alternate uniforms or not, personally, I don't. But you know what I get excited about? Supporting the university. And if this is what they're asking us to do, then I'm going to support the university in the alternate uniform games. Also, it's black. I know there's nothing black shirt on the uniforms, but I'm just going to pretend there is, and I buy into it more because of that. I will say this, I don't have us going 11-1 or 12-0. So if we're going to lose another game somewhere at some point, I got USC beating us in a close one. But it wouldn't surprise me if we win. The thing is, if we win, the very next week go out to UCLA, the road trip I mentioned earlier, and that game would then make me nervous. I personally have us losing a close game to USC, going out to UCLA and beating UCLA, who don't overlook, remember last year, and that would put us 8-2 heading into the last 2 games. Would you take that? I'd take that. Penn State. All right, I think it's going to be another close game deep into the game. I do think Penn State's one of the best teams in the country who just might win the national title. I do have Penn State winning that game, but I do think it's going to be a really close game, and then it comes down to Iowa. Ladies and gentlemen, we're sitting there at 8-3. Does Nebraska win 9 games or more? We'll address a bowl game later, because that would be the more. Iowa. Here's what I have written down. Another dogfight. We not only outplay them this year, but we win. We get a few more monkeys off our back, getting back to 9 wins. We got the Wisconsin monkey off our back, the winning season off our back, going to a bowl game, winning a bowl game a year ago. Let's get the Minnesota monkey off our back. By the way, I do have us beating Minnesota. I have us going 3-1 in that 4-game stretch in the middle of the season. I do have us beating Minnesota. I think Matt Rhule's going to make a point and to emphasize that game even more. I got us beating Minnesota. I've got us beating Iowa, getting some more monkeys off of our back, and that would put us at 9-3. I feel real good about saying we're going to win 8 games. Somewhere between 8 and 10, I've got Nebraska going 9-3 during the regular season. All right, let's see what else I've got here. I have no idea what's actually going to happen, but that's what makes this so much fun. All right, here are my questions for you fine folks at home. Let me know your answer in the comments below. And these fan questions are brought to you by Husker Auto Group. Again, check them out at huskerautomotive.com. Also, Carriker Chronicles.com. The site's blowing up. Videos, analysis, articles, pictures, all the stuff. Carrikerchronicles.com, where all your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. It's just science. I got an extra question for you fine folks at home. Why not? It's been a long break, so here we go. Nebraska wearing alternate uniforms. Matt Rhule said he wants to do that once every year. Do you like that idea, yes or no? Number 2, should fall weddings be banned? There's a graphic up on the screen. Long story short, some people think that football people are being selfish for saying fall weddings shouldn't happen during football season. You got the rest of the year. The rest of the year. Personally, I think fall weddings should be illegal. What do you think? Number 3, apparently we're going to have 1,000 teams in the college football playoff. There's been a proposed model with 24 to 28 teams in the college football playoff. Do you support this, yes or no? My question is, why does everyone love college football except the people in charge of it? Last, certainly not least, will Nebraska win 9 games this year? Let me know, yes or no. Until next time, go Big Red Nose. Remember to throw the ball.